So you can see these two converge right here. You've got natural gas prices plummeting, and more gas being flared. As it becomes worth less and less money, we burn more and more gas, which just exacerbates the problem. Right here, we have North Dakota monthly gas sold and price. So this is the North Dakota price, and you see it's even worse here. So this is 1,000 cubic feet of gas sold right here, and the price once again. And so you can see these are widely divergent. Again, gas at $2 a MCF. So that's why we have so much natural gas being burned off. It just doesn't make sense from a dollar perspective to pursue it. Another thing that's quite interesting, I'm sure you've all seen lots and lots of trucks on the road. I'm sure you're sick to death of seeing all those trucks on the road. They're destroying the roads for us. Well, you can see right here that 95% of the oil production that comes from Williams is truck. So that means a truck has to go to every single well site, pick up that oil, haul it off, so they can put it on a train and ship it out. That's typically what's happening. McKenzie County, 89%. So again, this is a horribly inefficient way to produce oil. But because we're working on this accelerated timeline, we're suffering the consequence of lots and lots of traffic on the road. Montreal's a bit better, 55% here is being trucked by road. Dunn County, 78%. So typically in any oil field, this chart should probably be about 95% blue, if not more. We always want to go by pipeline. It's very efficient, it's very safe, it's the right way to do it, but again, we don't have the infrastructure. Pipelines need to be laid. So, energy alternatives and challenges. So I thought it worth speaking about some of the challenges that we face when we talk about alternatives. Because oil, obviously, it's a limited resource. We have it today, but we do have to plan for the future. But it's not as simple as you would think. You see lots of wind farms popping up. That may be part of the solution, but it comes with its own consequence and challenge as well. So I'll talk a little bit about here. There's a guy called M. King Hubert. I don't know if you've heard about him, but he talked about peak oil. And eventually, his theory becomes true no matter what we think. And peak oil simply says that at some point, we will reach a level of production that can no longer be sustained and it'll start to drop off. So this chart depicts a little bit of that. You can see we start in 1850 here. And what we're finding in the beginning is cheap, high-quality crude, easy to find and produce high energy return. So in other words, back 20 years ago, we were finding reservoirs that were at 6,000 feet deep. It was low viscosity oil. It was easy to produce. It was easy to get out of there. And in fact, it was a piece of cake to produce this oil, right? But as time goes on, we get towards this hump, and now we found all the big reservoirs. They're all on land. We've produced them, and it's no longer easy pickings when it comes to finding the next oil reservoir. So we come to this peak, and we get to the other side. So we have falling, decreasing energy returns, volatile, high prices, expensive to extract. So now we're working offshore. Maybe you remember the BP Macondo, where we actually had a huge accident there. Well, that drilling rig in 2 miles of water is costing the operator over $1 million a day just to be working there. They're drilling through, they're lowering 2 miles just to get to the seabed before they can start drilling. The technologies that are used here are extraordinarily expensive. The risk that goes along with exploiting these natural resources, extraordinary as well. So a lot of people complain about the cost of a gallon of gas. Yet if they understood the risk that is taken, they can go out there, they can spend $250 million in a heartbeat, drill a well, and find absolutely nothing. So again, maybe the price of gas is a bit expensive, but if you look at the consequence of what some of these oil companies face, it's actually not too bad. It's a lot cheaper than a bottle of water. So as we go on in time, the oil quality becomes lower and lower. That means we're getting to the syn crudes out of Venezuela that come from McKenzie up in Canada. Heavy crude that we don't even actually pump out of the ground. We take bulldozers and we mine it. And we actually steam extract that oil from the grains of sand so we can use it and blend it with chemicals and other lighter oils. This, again, is Hubert's let's say graph, if you will. And each of these describes a different part of the oil. So you look over here, This one is regular conventional oil. The orange one you see right here is heavy oil. That's deep water oil right here. Boy, you can barely see it. It's a yellow here. Deep water oil. The polar oil that we have, NGL, etc., etc. So this right here, you can't see it, but it says 2011. So it gives an appearance that we are at peak oil right now. This is on a world scale, not just the U.S. The peak oil and our oil production will start to decline. Now, it's anybody's guess. We found brand new reservoirs like the Eagle Ford, Bakken, in North Dakota. But the fact of the matter is, this is an eventual reality for all of us. So total barrels per day. Today as a nation, or as a world, we consume 85 million barrels every single day. Of those 85 million barrels that we consume, about half of them are 42 million, let's say, come from non-OECD companies, or countries. And that's the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. And the other half come from the developed world, Europe, ourselves, Japan, etc., which is the green line up here. So you can see we're converging. The oil needs from these, let's say, third world countries are increasing rapidly, and ours are more or less being sustained, actually dropping off some. You can see down here that the U.S., back in 2007, we're consuming about 21 million barrels every single day, and we've dropped down to about 18 million barrels a day. So the economy being as poor as it is, people driving smaller cars, driving less, fewer vacations, that's contributed to it. And then you have Europe, which has a crisis of its own with Europe right now. So, and on the very bottom here, you see China and India. And you can see they started out at about 2 million barrels a day back in 1992, 93. And they're at 12 million barrels a day now. They're growing rapidly as well. So the need for oil isn't going away anytime soon. So this slide, renewable energy, well sorted. So renewable energy is a buzzword today. We all hear about it. We all embrace it, think it's a great thing. But the fact of the matter is, there's a lot of not so good things that come with it. So you see over here the windmills. We have them all over North Dakota. They're a great thing, right? But every single windmill, the stand or the tower that we have right here, about 71 tons of steel. Every one of these fins that you see here, or not fins, all of them together, 26 tons of steel. The nacelle, or the wind generator, the generator itself, 56 tons of steel. So every one of these is about 171 tons of steel. So if you think of the natural resources that are consumed in order to make one of these wind towers, it's tremendous. At the base here, you have 1,000 tons of cement and rebar. You can imagine the wind blowing against this tower that's 326 feet high, the stresses that it sees, and the need to ensure that a 100-mile-an-hour wind won't blow it over. So these bases are anywhere from 6 to 30 feet thick, and they're anywhere from 30 to 50 feet wide all the way around. They're blowing off whole mountaintops just so they can place one of these. So the cost and expense of putting one of these windmills in place, it takes decades of production before you actually get any return on it. The other thing that you have is, it rarely happens in North Dakota, but what if the wind doesn't blow? That's the one thing I guess we got going for us. But this is an intermittent kind of electricity. You can't rely on it, right?
What's the lifespan of this?
You know, I don't really know, but I would guess it's easy 100 years. I mean, it's going to need the generator to be refurbished and all, but it should last a long, long time. So, on the other side right here, we have solar panels. And I can tell you this is a complete and utter fluke. You know, they try and push this solar panel concept to the world, but it really makes no sense at all. So for a typical home, you need 110 solar panels in order to power it. You're going to need about 4,600 pounds of lead in order for the batteries and the panels themselves. Along with the 4,600 pounds of lead, you need to have all the batteries that go along with it. The batteries have a lifespan of 5 to 6 years. So obviously, you need to send all those back, get new batteries or I guess it's 6 to 7 years. Panels themselves only last 20 years. And one of the things that I mentioned here, they're planning until the year 2030 on building out, and we'll have 18 times as many windmills as we have today. And even when we have 18 times as many windmills as we have today, it'll be less than 1% of the total energy supplied for electricity in the United States. So it's minimal impact when you think about all the resources we're into. At any rate, with the solar power part or component of it, in order to convert the U.S. to solar power, we would need 5.6 trillion solar panels. They essentially go away every 20 years, and the batteries will go away 3 times. So, renewable, hardly. You think of the amount of resources that go into that, it consumes way more than it actually brings about. So this is nowhere near being economically feasible these days. The only reason it exists at all is because government, like grants, and sustained the initiative. So there's some good news, bright side of things. This is the United States, North America actually, and you see all these different basins here which contain lots and lots of hydrocarbons. They continue to find more, and there's a possibility, who knows how much is out there, but certainly we have a very good supply for a long time yet to go. This is an interesting one right here, one of the last slides that I have. So you can see this is U.S. oil and natural gas proved reserves 79 through 2010. So it goes back to 2 years ago, but you can see for 30 years, whatever it was, we had declining oil. It was less and less and less and less. And these are reserves, again, proven reserves, to where we got all the way down to 20 billion barrels. And then we have taken off like a rocket. And that's because of the Bakken, that's because of the Marcellus, the Eagleford, the Woodford. We have new shale plays all over the United States. And along with that, our proven reserves of gas have skyrocketed as well. So they're even well beyond this now. I would say we're probably up closer to the 500 trillion cubic feet mark when it comes to natural gas. So this is my last slide. I figured it was one worth mentioning. Today, our outstanding debt is $16 trillion. Continues to grow. As I mentioned already, the price of oil is premised on the value of the U.S. dollar. As our U.S. dollar continues to erode, it continues to erode for a reason. A lot of that is because of the debt that we have. This is debt that you and I have. You can see right here, $51,000 per person. So we probably have $50 million of debt sitting in this room right now. And this is something that's going to greatly affect not only us, but our children and our grandchildren. We're saddling our children with this responsibility. So it was worth mentioning that this is something that we all need to take special care of, think about, because it is our children and grandchildren who bear the consequences of, I guess, I hate to say it, our responsibility. So if you don't agree with it, contact your congressman, contact your White House, let them know about it. Because this is probably the most concerning thing we have. It really is unsustainable. Thank you all. You've been a very good audience. I think, yeah, made it. So good. Do you have any questions? Yes, sir.
How much work are you doing to, for the gas that's being burned off, to use it for on-site generation?
When you say how much, it depends upon the need. So if you have a pump jack on site, very often they will use the gas that's produced from that well to power that pump jack. So they do that. It's to the benefit of the operator, of course. But most often then you only need a little bit of that gas to power that pump. And you still have all the residual gas, the remaining gas that is there, that needs to be flared off. So that is taken advantage of, but it really doesn't address the problem. It mitigates it, it drops it a little bit, but it doesn't actually do away with the problem itself.
So if you're able to transport this gas, is there a demand in different parts of the country?
If you can get the pipelines to transport this gas, is there a demand for it in other parts of the country? Or?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great question, in fact. So today, in Japan, for instance, the price of 1,000 cubic feet of gas is $14. Here in the U.S., it's $2. Over in Europe, the price of 1,000 cubic feet of gas is $12. Here it's $2. So there's a lot of initiatives going on up in Canada, the Horn River Basin, as well as on the East Coast. And there's a company called Cheniere Energy, who is actually creating a plant to compress natural gas to ship it overseas to other markets. So there is a big drive going in this direction. It's taking about, I think, at least $10 billion in order to put it all in play, and it's about 3 to 4 years out. So they're building the pipelines, they're building the plants, and that is part of the plan. The shipping industry is preparing for it. But yes, absolutely, no question about it. So,
Yeah, that's good. It really bothers me to see these wells flaring up and all this energy just gone.
It's a complete and utter waste. Plus, it's harmful to the environment.